In this brief video, we're going to try and cover editing an order, voiding an order, and voiding payments. These are very basic operations in control, and they become very second nature, but the first time you're running through it, it is helpful to understand what the capabilities are in control and how you do it. I'd like to briefly look at what the statuses are, and in the normal flow of an order, we'll move from WIP, or work in progress, to built, to the sales status, and then to closed. But at any point along the way, we can void the order, which sends it straight into a voided status and closes out the order. In control, the first thing I want to do is go ahead and open up the order. Of course, there are a number of different ways you can open an order. I like to use the quick lookup on the default home page. And as long as you know what the order number is, you can simply type it in and open up that order. In order to make any changes to the order, I'm going to first need to put it in edit mode. And I'll do that by clicking on the edit button on the action toolbar. That will now allow me to add other line items to this order. I can go in and adjust the information about the order. So I may, for instance, want to come in and change this from quantity 2 to a quantity of 4. And when I do that, control is going to adjust the price accordingly. I could come and change any of the other information, and control would act the same way it would if you were putting in a new order, and it would calculate the appropriate materials, parts, and the price. You can always come in control and override the price, and sometimes when you're doing small tweaks, you want to come in and just type in a new price, or type in the old price, so you'll have that fixed. But in this case, I'm going to leave it the calculated value. I'll click on OK to close this screen, and in this hypothetical situation, we'll assume the customer doesn't want you to install it. They've decided to install it themselves. So I'm just going to delete this line item. I'll click on the line item, and I'll click the delete button on the line item toolbar. So I've made a few changes. We've changed the price. Control has recalculated the taxes. And I'll save those changes by clicking on the Save button on the Action toolbar. When I do that, Control is going to ask me for a reason for the edit, and Control will log the whole history of the order, and it's very helpful if you have questions or issues or problems to be able to come back and look at that. So I encourage you to type in a meaningful description here. So I'm just going to type that the customer will do their own installation, but they wanted 4 signs. Now Control knows who you are because you've logged in, and it's saving all of this information as activities on this order, and I can view all of that information by going to the Activities tab, and there I'll see actually the whole history of the order, starting with the initial creation of the order. A payment was applied to this order, and then we came in and we just edited it. The other thing that's important to note is over on the right side, it's giving me all of the accounting information that goes into it. So in addition to the journal notes that I typed in, that we see right here, and the fact that Control knows who put this in and when this change was made, we can also see the accounting transactions that were associated with what we did. So line item 1, when we adjusted the price upwards, it increased the WIP amount, and we deleted the third line item, so we're seeing that coming out here at the bottom. But you can look at the whole history of the order step by step on the Activities tab of that order. And if you're voiding an order, you have to open up the order. Even though the order is a status, and you may be used to changing the status by right-clicking on the order in Explorer or one of the many instruments that are out there for that, in order to void the order, Control does require that you open it up. Once I have it open, I can simply click on the Void button on the Action toolbar. And again, I'll be prompted for a reason. And you want to type something meaningful because it is going to log this and it's going to become part of the history of the order as well as the customer's file. At this point, you may notice that it's changed this order to a status of voided. But I also want to point out what's going on in the accounting. Now, this order may have been created, could have been created a month ago, 2 months ago, and the income from that order, as well as the taxes, may have all been already handled. You may have already paid the taxes, you've already booked the income. So when I void the order, Control does not go back and erase what happened when it was originally created. Instead, Control will post reversing entries to undo all of the income and all of the taxes. But those reversing entries are posted as of the time that you make the change, so as of now in this case. And I'll double click on that journal entry so we can take a look at it. So here's our journal entry for the void. And what we'll see is debit for an income is actually a negative. Income is normally credit. So in this case, we have a negative $225 in income. We have negative taxes. And we've also backed out our accounts receivable. So voiding the order did all of those things. And so in the end, we'll have no accounts receivable. The total income will be zero, and the taxes will be zero. But those are split into two different time frames based on the different steps. And if you're editing and changing, you could actually have many different transactions and many different times that were recorded for that order. Okay, now let's take a look at voiding a payment. To void a payment, I'm going to open up an order. And there are several ways I can void a payment. A payment is just an activity. And so anywhere that I'm viewing activities, and that you can view payments on your calendar if you want, you can view them in Explorer. We've already looked at the order and we've seen that payments show up as activities on the Activities tab. But there's also for payments a special tab called Payments where it will list all of my payments, and I'd recommend you come here when you're going to work with those payments. Of course, I can take new payments from this screen, but if I want to void this payment, what I'll want to do is right-click on that payment and choose Void. Now, it's an important distinction between this void that I get by right-clicking on that line and the void that's over here on the Action toolbar. Now, the void on the Action toolbar, as we saw, voids the entire order. And one common mistake for a new user is to come to this screen to view the payment and then to click on the void here and void the entire order. So the two ways around that are to make sure that you're right-clicking when you void, or what I like to do is to double-click and open up that activity on a screen of its own. And once I do that, then I can use the void button on the Action toolbar because it's voiding this entire window, which in this case is just the payment. The void is also going to ask for a reason, and I'll just type in whatever the appropriate reason was. And now it will note that this payment has been voided, and we'll see that, but it didn't erase or change or delete the journal entries, because again, those may have been from times past, but what it did do was create new offsetting entries so that the totals would be zero, but I would be able to see what happened over time. And so we'll see the voided payment also in the list. We see that the payments we received are zero, and so the full balance is now due. Okay, so just to recap, we went through editing orders, voiding orders, and then voiding payments in this brief video.